Avery, whose show is this? And we're live. Welcome, everybody, here to the Lakers Lounge Podcast. I'm Anthony Irwin, senior Lakers content creator or whatever for Offside. And today on the show, we're going to be talking about, well, a few things. First and foremost, I was looking at the stats, and I know that people were kind of wringing their hands with Austin's performance last night and the concern that he might not be able to hold up against that level of athleticism. That's not really what I'm all that nervous about. What I'm actually kind of nervous about, and we talked about it last night a little bit, but is his shooting. His shooting is not at all where it needs to be, and so we're going to discuss that and figure out ways that the Lakers can maybe get him going. The other thing that I want to talk about here is, given the way that this season has kind of played out so far, the Lakers do have an opportunity here to potentially benefit from some teams' tough starts and what I think are going to be some underwhelming seasons for some teams. So we're going to discuss, we're about a month out from trade season really getting going, but I do think that some teams are heading towards more disappointing seasons than they thought they were going to be, and that does really help a trade market that is otherwise fairly dry. So that's another thing that we're going to talk about. And then finally, at the end of the show and over the course of the show, you guys are going to hopefully be sending me some questions. If you guys are watching on YouTube right now, hit comment with whatever question or topic that you want me to cover, and I will get to as many questions of those as I possibly can. I'm recording at about 4:30 my time out here in Texas, and my son went down for his nap at about 2. So usually this is around the time, or in the next half hour or so, is around the time that he normally wakes up. And when he wakes up, I'm probably going to have to bone out of here. And I cracked the door open here, which means when he wakes up, he is probably going to pop into the show as well. So you guys will be able to say hi to Miles. So that is the plan for this episode. Again, hit me with questions and comments over the course of the show, and I'll scroll back up to the top to make sure that I hit the ones that we got first, and obviously prioritize super chats and stuff like that. But I'll scroll back up to the top to make sure I answer those of you who jumped in here the earliest, and get to as many of those questions as I can, again, before little man wakes up and ruins everything. So without any further ado, let's go ahead and dive on in. But first, a quick reminder, please do hit that subscribe button. Please hit that like button wherever it is that you guys are watching right now. If you guys are on Twitter, head on over to youtube.com/@LakersLounge to find the show there. And then if you guys are listening to the show in the morning via podcast, hit subscribe wherever it is that you get your podcast, preferably on Odyssey, because I am a company man. All right. So last night, got plenty of comments. Look at that. Austin didn't hold up in this game. Trade him. He's a regular season player. He's not a playoff player. He's this, he's that, all of these things. And look, given the way that last year's playoffs went, I understand some of those concerns. I really honestly do. Like, I would be remiss if I just ignored them altogether. That said, that's not really what I'm worried about. To me, what's a lot more concerning this season from Austin is his shooting. So far this season, he's only shooting 30% from 3-point range, and he's getting them up. He's shooting 7.5 attempts per game. But he has really kind of struggled, especially lately. And I don't know how much of that is because of the groin issue that he's been dealing with. I don't know how much of that is, just fatigue, right? Given the effort that he put into the early part of the season while Luka was out. But regardless, earlier this year he was shooting 36.2% from 3-point range on 7.8 attempts per game. That was just um in October, right? In October, the first couple of games of the season, 36.2% from 3-point range. And then in November, that number has dropped considerably through November, which is now a decent sample. Well, not really, because he missed a few games, but in 3 games in November, he is attempting 9.7 attempts from 3-point range. That's obviously up from October, but he's only knocking down 20.7% of those attempts, um, which is, way down from his season end career averages. And I kind of, part of it is that I feel like a lot of his shot types. I'm going to go to his his you know shot type and shot tracking type uh data, but the let's see. So I'm looking here. All right. Um, oh, this is just on the team. Shoot. I'm trying to find Austin's scoring stats. So players, traditional scoring. Here we go. All right. Austin's scoring statistics from NBA.com. So that isn't what I'm looking for either. All right, whatever. Um, what I'm gonna say anecdotally is that Austin's catch and shoot stats are not where they need to be. And what I mean by that is the attempts per game. He's not getting the reps in those possessions that he needs. Now, part of that is Luka was in and out of the lineup, and that's going to impact it as well. Also, Austin is usually the connective pass. If like it's really rare that Austin is like down at the corner, which I would kind of like to see, to be completely honest. Like when Luka is running stuff, I would like to see what it looks like and what the spacing on the floor might look like with Austin spaced out to the corner or one of the corners. He's not the best corner shooting 3-pointer or 3-point shooter, but that would, I think, at least in theory, and especially if like Gabe gets back, or if you have like Marcus Smart, as the one pass away guy who throws the connective pass, the swing pass. Like I would like to see what it would look like with Austin there. And that's the thing is that like, and I know you guys are really sick of me saying this, but because of the way that preseason went, where you didn't get very many reps with, Luka out there, Austin did get plenty of reps, but the problem is like all of his catch and shoot reps, they're all going to come when Luka has the ball. So, and if Luka isn't playing, you're not going to get any of those reps. And one of the things that you can do over the course of preseason is fiddle around with, all right, this is what this pick and roll looks like with Austin one pass away. All right, now this is what it looks like with Austin 2 passes away. This is what it looks like when you set a flare screen for Austin while the activity is going, or you set a pin down screen for Austin while the activity is going, just to see what you could possibly do there with some of these sets. And this is something that'll take place over the course of the season, but you're 10 games in and we haven't really seen very much of that. And so what I guess I'm kind of ranting and rambling about is when it comes to Austin's catch and shoot stuff, he doesn't have enough reps of any kind to be very comfortable with it. And not only is that important, obviously, from a rhythm standpoint, where he will be more confident taking more of those shots, but also his rhythm within the context of a game. If your first 3-point attempt is like a step back, the double hop step back that these guys are taking now because of the gather step, like if that's your first attempt from 3-point range, it's a miss. Like I'm just going to go ahead and call it. Even Steph, like if that's his first attempt of the game, I don't love that as anybody's first attempt from 3-point range. It's just such a far shot. And it's just like I think Austin, yeah, like his first attempt from in last night's game was after he turned the ball over dribbling middle, but he took one of those from the right wing, one of those going to his right, sidestep, double hop, 3-pointers at the end of a shot clock. And it's just like, that's a grenade. That's not how you're going to gain any kind of rhythm. And I would like to see what the Lakers could do here to make Austin's attempts a little bit easier than they've been, because he's just working with really difficult attempts. So I would say, this is something that I, I I'm not worried about it. I think Austin is a good enough shooter. Like, I don't think he forgot how to shoot. Um, but I do think it's important enough that the Lakers have to make it a priority to get him going. And I think the way that they have to get him going is to figure out a way to make his shots easier than they have been from 3-point range, where it's almost only pull up jumpers, and almost all of them are contested. Eh, Where are the easy shots coming from? And if he is shooting an easier shot, it's usually from 3-4 feet from behind the 3-point line, which makes it right a less easy shot. So yeah, from just something to keep an eye on here moving forward. The Lakers play the Pelicans tomorrow night. It's not a very good defensive team. One of the things that I would like to, wow, holy cow. Breaking news here from the shoe world. Steph Curry and Under Armour have parted ways. Whoa, that's kind of crazy. He is Under Armour, at least in terms of their basketball stuff. I mean, Under Armour has really kind of fallen off from like you know, the shoe world. I would say New Balance has completely passed him up. Um, but that is still pretty shocking nonetheless. Keep an eye on that, I guess. Um, and I wonder if he goes to Nike, there's a decent chance that Nike really does a lot of work to try to get him and LeBron on the same team one way or another. Again, it's just something to keep an eye on. But yeah, wrapping up the Austin thing, um, it, one way, like this is one of the reasons that LeBron coming back now is actually really important, because that way you have minutes where Austin can still be, the primary or secondary creator at any moment of a game, right? Chances are Austin isn't going to be on the court by himself when LeBron and Luca are both healthy. So, figuring out a way to get Austin either setting screens, and like one of the types of sets that I really like is essentially when Austin sets a screen for Luca or a screen for LeBron, and then kind of flares around. It's like a pick and pop type of a deal if they're going to run a pick and pop. I would like to see some of those pick and pops where a somebody is there waiting for Austin as he pops to set a flare screen for him and then dive down to the basket afterward. Anything like that, like some of those horn sets are also interesting. So again, it's way too early to be worried or concerned about anything, especially given the way that Austin looked at the beginning of the season. But I would like to say that, or I would like to see Austin's shot type and shot diet become a lot easier than it's been so far this season. Changing course almost entirely. The next thing I want to talk about here are the standings as they currently sit. So in the West, and actually what's funny is the West is actually a lot more interesting to me from this perspective. In the West, you have so Utah sits 10th. We know they're going to tank. They owe if the pick that they have this season falls outside of the top 8, it goes to Oklahoma City. And one way or another, they are going to be looking to tank. So either Lauri Markkanen is going to get traded, or he is going to get the worst hamstring pull, fake probably, but still like one of the worst fake hamstring pulls that we've ever seen. And Utah, I would imagine, is going to drop down the standings. Behind them, you have the Memphis Grizzlies. They're a disaster right now. You have the Ja Morant stuff. You have, just a collectively very unhappy team. And I would, we'll see what kind of happens with them. The Clippers are next up behind the Memphis Grizzlies. They sit at 3-8, and they look ancient. And by the way, they're not going to have Kawhi Leonard for what sounds like at least a week or two, because not only does he have an ankle sprain, but apparently he sprained his foot too, according to Lawrence Frank. And if they don't have Kawhi Leonard, then they are a really bad basketball team. James Harden will be able to keep their offense afloat a little bit, but their defense will really miss Kawhi. So I don't know what their immediate future looks like. It's probably not very bright. And then you have the Sacramento Kings. They sit 3-9. You have Doug Christie already doing press conferences where he doesn't answer any questions and he just rants and raves into a microphone. I can relate for one thing, because that's my entire job, but, and then you also have their GM out there, searching through Chat GPT, for inspirational quotes to send to his fan base. Sacramento eventually is going to be looking to blow it up. I think there's already a report that they're going to start looking to see what they can get for Zach LaVine and what they can get for Domantas Sabonis and what they could get for DeMar DeRozan, so on and so forth. So they're a team to watch if they do tear it down, or when they do tear it down. I just knew that they were going to be bad this season. It was the easiest under to bet heading into the year. And then the Dallas Mavericks sit at 3-9, and they're going to be excited because Nico Harrison is no longer there, and their home games will be a little bit less antagonistic, but the roster still doesn't make any sense. D'Angelo Russell can't be your only point guard if the hope is to win basketball games, and they look really bad. Then you have New Orleans Pelicans. The New Orleans Pelicans, quietly, it's been a really funny story. Willie Green is their head coach, and for every home game, right, they'll announce, starting at guard and starting at shooting guard and starting at small forward, at power forward, at center. And they'll announce all of the players, and then they'll also say, and your head coach, so-and-so, right? And quietly, now people have noticed now, so it's a lot less quiet, but the New Orleans Pelicans have stopped doing that with Willie Green. So that guy's about to get canned. And so that's 5 Western Conference teams that all look really bad this season. And I think that, for the first time, maybe in a little while, there is some solidification to the West playoff picture. And basically one of the reasons that the trade market, or the in-season trade market, has become rather difficult to navigate is because you have so many more teams that make the playoffs or the play-in, and it takes a lot more for a team to consider itself on the outside looking in. But some of those teams that I named there, the Memphis Grizzlies, the Clippers, the Kings, the Mavericks, the Pelicans, and the Jazz, all of those teams have incentive to tank, or maybe not incentive to tank, but are being told by the league, hey man, you're a tanking team. And that's not even including the East, where you have the Charlotte Hornets. They are 4-7. And then you have 3 teams in the East, all with 1 win. The Brooklyn Nets, the Indiana Pacers, and the Washington Wizards are a combined 3-31. Yeah, 3-31. So, what has essentially happened is, because of the play-in, and it used to be, if you weren't in the playoffs, you would know relatively quickly, especially in the West, and then focus on the future, air quotes, and meaning tank. And you would start selling off pieces, and you would start, trying to put together your draft stash, and you would be giving your young guys some minutes so that they're ready for the upcoming seasons when their roles are going to increase. And what's happened basically, it's kind of a fascinating downstream effect of the play-in tournament is those teams that would normally get worse, they've actually held off on getting worse. And you have these, and now all of a sudden that bill has come due and they all look really, really bad. And those situations look really, really bad. So it's going to be interesting to see here with some of these teams. And look, like Charlotte Hornets has some interesting players, right? Josh Green is a guy that I would probably advise you to keep your eye on. The Brooklyn Nets, they have a couple of guys there, a couple of vets that, Day'Ron Sharpe is somebody who the Lakers have kicked the tires on before. He is probably somebody who I would probably advise to keep an eye on as well. The Indiana Pacers, I doubt that they'll really be looking to sell off pieces from that team because they want to be as good as they can possibly be when Tyrese Halliburton comes back. But, they didn't extend their younger shooting guard, Benedict Mathurin. Maybe he becomes available, and I would really like him and his athleticism on this Lakers roster. The Washington Wizards, if they don't trade guys, they might just start buying guys out as well, because I don't know what some of those trade markets might look like for some of their veterans. The Utah Jazz have Lauri Markkanen. They have, we'll pour a little liquor out for our dude, perennial Lakers trade target, Walker Kessler. No, I actually still think he's somebody that the Lakers should trade for. Like, I would call up Danny Ainge and be like, hey, Dalton in a swap. Let's just get this done. Now you don't have to worry about his restricted free agent next year. He's going to take the qualifying offer, and then he's an unrestricted free agent with an implied no trade clause, which makes it so that you're basically not going to get anything for this guy moving forward. Here's a young dude who has some basketball tools. What do you think? Let's move on. I would make the call. But the Memphis Grizzlies, right? Like, if their season continues on the way that it has, and if they decide to trade Ja Morant, like, all right, if they trade Ja, depending on the type of trade that they make, I don't think they're gonna get better by way of trading Ja. They might. I don't know. I doubt it though. And if they don't, then they have some interesting guys on their roster. Sacramento Kings, I don't think Keegan Murray will be made available. Like, I think the guys who will probably be traded are like the veterans that they've added recently. I think Dennis Schroeder is somebody who you'll hear some trade rumors about. DeMar DeRozan, Zach LaVine again. I do kind of wonder about like a Zach LaVine, Anthony Davis trade, but like that's a team that, if you squint, like Keon Ellis, I know that a lot of you guys listening really want the Lakers to trade for Keon Ellis. If they blow it up, if they get rid of all their vets, that opens the pathway for Ellis to get more minutes, and that makes it kind of difficult to trade for him. But if you blow him away with an offer, then maybe, just maybe, and so on and so forth. You have the Wings down there in New Orleans, who obviously the Lakers have checked in on before, and they even have DeJounte Murray down there who might be healthy at some point this season. I don't know. My point being though, that like, and the point of this segment, and I think the takeaway or the talking point to hopefully walk away from this segment with is, hey, I think the trade market this season is going to be a lot more fruitful, or a lot clearer, a lot sooner than it has been in years past. And this is something that the Lakers, they always look to take advantage of, right? They don't make trades in the offseason. They do, however, make tweaks while the season is going on. They have that first round pick in their pocket. They have a bunch of expiring contracts. We know all about all of those things. I would probably venture to guess that the Lakers will be pretty happy with how the trade market plays out for him. All right, let's go ahead and dive on in. We have 31 questions. We do have one super comment, which means I get to play the most important clip on the show. First question here comes from Amon Brar, 1992, who writes, Anthony, with Walker Kessler out for the year, is he an easier trade target for the Lakers and someone they can buy low on for next season? Already kind of talked about this, obviously, right? But it's worth expanding on. This is where the human element comes into play, because you have Danny Ainge, who got offers of multiple first-round picks for Walker Kessler over the years and turned him down. And is he a part of their core moving forward? Is he part of the teardown efforts? Like, you can make an argument that he's probably still really valuable to the Jazz right now, given that he's not going to play again. Like, just tune it, like follow any like Utah Jazz people, any Utah Jazz bloggers, and their sole focus right now is tanking. How do we get, like, we are winning too much already, sitting at 4-7, given the performances elsewhere in the West and elsewhere in the league. You need, because look, like, as it's positioned right now, I named 6 Western Conference teams that have as many or fewer wins so far in the Memphis Grizzlies, the Clippers, the Kings, the Mavericks, and the Pelicans. And then in the East, you have the Hornets, who also have 4 losses, and then the aforementioned teams that only have 1. So if the lottery were to happen right now, the Utah Jazz would need luck to be able to keep that pick. So they need to start losing more games. And they've been winning because Lauri Markkanen turns out is really good at basketball. So that is going to be a situation to keep an eye on. They have some interesting players, and some potential buyout guys, right? Like Kevin Love, I would imagine is did he already get bought out? I forget, but I don't think he has. But like, for the sake of the question here, Amon, is he easier to trade for? I would say yes. I would probably say yes. Now, the nice thing about the injury that he has, I believe he hurt his shoulder. It's not the kind of injury that you're worried about when he comes back, right? It's not a lower body. He didn't blow out his knee. He didn't hurt his ankle. He didn't hurt his feet. Nothing like that. He just, I guess, tore a labrum in his shoulder. Not just, but you guys know what I mean. And like, if you're Danny Ainge, you've already lost so much value on this guy. Do you remain pot committed to this and see if he can resuscitate some of that value? That would make it more difficult to trade for Walker Kessler. Or do you just cut bait now and say, well, we know where this is heading. He's going to take his qualifying offer this upcoming summer. He's going to be an unrestricted free agent as a result of that. Then he'll have the implied no trade clause, which means it'll be really that much more difficult to trade for, or to trade this guy, because nobody's going to want to pay the prices that they were willing to pay before for a potential rental, right? He's about to be an unrestricted free agent. And so, yeah, I would probably say yes. Short answer, it is a little bit more nuanced than that, but I if I were the Lakers, I'd be bugging Danny Ainge and say, hey, we have this guy Dalton Connect. He needs a change of scenery. Maybe he can go somewhere. Like, Dalton has looked really good when the game has been out of reach in one way or another this season. Maybe that's where he just needs to play for a while. Maybe he just needs to go to Utah, play zero stakes basketball, just focus on hooping, just focus on scoring, and maybe hopefully build some habits, even though that's kind of difficult to do in a situation where they're focused on losing to the extent that Utah is. But they need to, maybe if you're Rob Pelinka, you call up Danny and you say, hey man, here's this guy. He was at one point the draft darling, hasn't gone that well for him here. Here's a second rounder on top of it, or a pick swap on top of it, or a protected first, or not, no, not a protected first, but a protected pick swap, or whatever it is. Let's see what we can do here. Or like as part of another deal, right? If Utah and another team are talking, maybe you say, hey, maybe we could sweeten the pot with Dalton in a second, but here you got to send us over. Walker Kessler, and maybe that's how it gets done. But I do really like the idea of trading for Kessler this year and having him as an immediate improvement to your roster next season. And he would be cost controlled, right? He would, relatively cost controlled. At worst, he takes a qualifying offer. At best, you sign him to a lower market, contract. Maybe it's a shorter contract, kind of a prove it deal once he gets healthy. Whatever it is, if I were the Lakers, I'd be calling, and I'm sure they will. Robin and Danny Ainge talk a ton. All right, let's go back up to the top here, see what some of your guys' questions are. RoboCop, how much leverage do you, Anthony, have into the Lakers organization? Like, can you offer consultation or even trade prospects to them? No. Short answer, no. But I'll pull the curtain back a little bit. And the way that, or an aspect of my job and reporting is, it's just conversation, right? It's conversation. It's, you go to a game or you talk to somebody on the phone and they ask, hey, what are you hearing about this? And you have that conversation about what I'm hearing that team X is thinking about doing, or what agent X feels about his client's situation in a different spot or whatever. And then you shoot the shit and you offer up a little bit of information, you get a little information. I've often called it the information economy, right? And so like I don't have leverage on the Lakers organization, but I do have relationships, and I try to make sure that those are mutually beneficial relationships between myself and whoever it is that I'm talking to. And that's the case with agents, and that's the case with people from other teams, and that's the case with coaches and assistant coaches and stuff like that. Like that's how it all kind of goes is hey, this is what I'm hearing. Oh, wow. Oh, that's interesting. I hadn't heard that. Here's what I'm hearing here. And it's not always that direct, and it's far off, more often than not. It's just talking basketball and gleaning from those conversations what you can. I've always been a very kind of conversational guy. And that's how I prefer to do it. And that's not how everybody does it. That's but it all starts with just being a decent hang, I guess, and somebody worth talking basketball with. And yeah, as far as like, could I advise them on stuff? Like, yeah, I give my 2 cents like all the time. I will say, like, Lakers need more athleticism, but they're aware of that before I bring it up. All right. The next question here comes from, let's see. One team people were taking a Was from Brian Fritz. One team people will be taking a close look at when it comes to possible trades is New Orleans. How motivated do you think they'll be to making trades, especially with the new front office there? Well, they have no incentive to tank this season because they gave away their unprotected first round pick this season for Derek Queen, who at least looks good. Like he's playing good basketball. So shouts to them for that. The Oh, look at this. The Lakers just upgraded Adu Thero to questionable for tomorrow's game in where are they playing tomorrow? New Orleans, ironically, who I'm talking about right now. So hopefully if it's a blowout, we might get a few Thero minutes. But yeah, the thing with New Orleans is again that draft pick really complicates things. And like they're in the same boat that the Sacramento Kings are kind of in, where Joe Dumars, like he won the one championship running the Detroit Pistons, right? The team that beat the Lakers. Aside from that, he's had a pretty tough track record as an executive in the NBA. And um, he has to at some point fire their head coach. And normally, when you fire a head coach, like interim coaches don't have the best track record when it comes to winning basketball games, let alone winning playoff games. So, like I always say, the world often tells you who you are. The NBA often tells teams who they are. And I always laugh when, Team X trades away superstar Y and they have that typical press conference where the owner or the GM says, "Oh, you go anywhere. We're trying to win right away." And they prioritize win now players who then you have to try to trade to get the future assets that you probably should have just gotten from by trading the superstar away. Um and like what winds up happening is the league tells that team, you just traded your superstar. You're not going to be very good. And eventually they start selling off pieces to make up for the things that they didn't get when they traded their superstar. So I would, right now the Pelicans are trying to maintain that they're this win now team and that they're trying to make the playoffs this year and they're trying to do this and they're trying to do that. But eventually, like the league has told them very loudly so far this season, no, you guys suck. You're 2-9. And so like even if they don't have incentive to tank this year because they traded for Derek Queen, you might wind up tanking regardless. And if you're tanking anyway, you may as well do so to the best of your abilities. So you trade Herb Jones and you trade Trey Trey. I'm forgetting his name. But like, you if you're going to do it, do it. And we'll see if they ever actually do. Now, Joe Dumars is somebody who was in the league office before. He knows to what extent the league kind of frowns on tanking and intentionally making rosters worse for the sake of uh making improving your draft chances. So to him, he might just look at Adam Silver and be like, look, I'm clearly not doing it for the sake of improving my draft stock unless he gets draft picks back in this year's draft or something like that. But yeah, I would, it's not necessarily about like incentive here. It's just reality. And the sooner that they face reality and come to grips with that, no matter what it is and no matter how harsh it is, once they figure that out, once they actually listen to the basketball gods or the NBA gods, it's kind of only a matter of time till they start selling at least a couple pieces. Whoops, wrong button. All right, let's go ahead and look at another comment here. And let's see. Yeah, man, I can't believe the Steph Curry thing. Like you guys, I'm in the stretch of the comment section when I reacted to the news, and that was crazy. Let's see. Moneyboy277, does OKC have every pick in the league? Sure freaking feels like it, right? Like, damn, man, share. Like, um, they're just like, and it's not just that they have every pick in the league, it's that they have such a great track record of getting guys who fit their culture. And, I didn't say this on yesterday's show. I tweeted it this morning. But the thing that really blew me away watching that game back is how unselfish the Thunder are on both sides of the court. And, we talked about how quick their decisions are made on the court. And part of the reason there is because they're all fully bought into their identity, and they are fully understanding of their identity. And when that is the case, it becomes that much easier to just make the right play within the context of that team's culture on offense or defense. And when you see a team as committed to its culture or to its identity as the Thunder are, that is just unselfishness. That is just checking your ego at the door and showing up and doing whatever it is that needs to be done. And that starts with the superstar at the top of the roster in Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, and it goes on down through there. And I've been saying now for a while that if you have a superstar who isn't willing to do, if there's anything at all that your superstar can do but isn't willing to do or doesn't want to do, you're kind of sort of screwed, because you're competing in a league against superstars who are willing to do those things. The example, right, is Jokic, who, if he has to score, he'll score. If he has to help his team win through assists or passing, then he'll do that. He's gotten better over the years on defense. That's a matter of accepting, okay, yeah, I got to get better on defense. And, I'm still waiting to see, like, is Luka going to make some of those similar changes? Will Luka be a more willing screener? Will he make a hit ahead pass that isn't necessarily for an assist? Will he be willing to run the court, or at least allow the Lakers to run, because the Lakers are going to be a good transition team in terms of points per possession? Like, you watch Shai play, and no, he's probably a little overrated now defensively, but he still gets after it. He still cares on that side of the court. And you look at other superstars like Steph, right? Like, Steph is somebody who, at over the course of his career, like, Steph is somebody who, if he wanted to, could demand, hey, I want to run 35 pick and rolls over the course of the game. And I want this to be our offense. But no, he is fully bought into Steve Kerr's motion offense. He's fully bought into being as dangerous off of the ball as he is with it. And as a result, the Warriors have had, one of the more successful stretches, in modern NBA history. And your superstar sets the tone there. And, like, I look at Giannis sometimes, or even Kevin Durant is another example, where those guys, like Kevin Durant, should be a pick and pop player. Giannis should be a pick and roll player. And with Giannis sometimes a little less than willing to run pick and roll, it makes Milwaukee a worse team. They had Dame Lillard there for a while, and that's a natural pick and roll combination. And they didn't run very much of it because Giannis didn't want to. That, to me, makes Milwaukee a worse team, and it makes it that much more difficult to compete in a league where there are superstars who would be willing to do those things for their team. So, yeah, it's a, like, the original question was about, like, OKC's treasure trove of draft picks, and that's obviously an advantage in and of itself. But to me, OKC's greatest advantage is the culture that has been set by Sam Presti and has been set by Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and has been set by Mark Daigneault, and then is just fully committed to 110% commitment up and down that roster to that identity, to that culture. That's so much more valuable than any number of picks that OKC might have. We got another super comment here. Thank you for that, Logan. Logan Missiak writes, "Don't overreact, dude. Luka's been to the finals." No, I'm not. Look, I'm not saying that Luka sucks or Luka this or Luka that. I'm saying that, like, all right, so he lost to a team in the Boston Celtics where Jason Tatum is perfectly fine operating off of the ball if somebody else has it going. He's an absolute monster defensively. On the perimeter when he has to be. He and Jaylen Brown are both, just terrors on the wing defensively. And that's, that two-way impact is something that we're still waiting for from Luka. So, Kyrie wet his pants in that series, and that was probably a much bigger factor than anything Luka did. Luka averaged like almost a 30-point triple-double in that series. He was perfectly fine. Though the defense, again, was a struggle. Remember how Windhorst called out Luka for his defense in that series? Like, he was right. He was absolutely right. And that's something that Luka is going to have to continue to work on. So all I'm saying is that, like, if you want to have a chance against some of these teams that do have superstars who are willing to do absolutely anything to win, and this has been the case forever, by the way, right? The reason that the Lakers had as much success with Kobe as they did was because he was a two-way superstar and he was willing to do absolutely whatever it took to win a basketball game. That game 7, he shot like shit. So what did he do? He put his head down. He got to the free throw line. He went out and grabbed whatever it was, 16 or 18 rebounds in that game and played some incredible defense and basically did whatever it took to keep Rajon Rondo's impact on that series to a minimum. And you look at Michael Jordan and what he was willing to do to win basketball games. Magic Johnson jumping center as a rookie is another thing that comes to mind. This is always how it goes in the NBA, where if you want to win and you want to beat some of these teams that have superstars that are willing to do whatever it takes to win, then your guy also has to be willing to do whatever it takes to win. And that extends beyond the things that they are great at. That extends into some things that they have to learn to improve at, or that extends into some things that aren't as fun to do on a basketball court. And that's, look, I think Luka's going to be really good, and I'm thrilled that he is a Laker. That's just the next step in his development as a superstar, is being more willing to do whatever it possibly takes to win a basketball game. And I think his defense has been better this year. He got into shape this offseason. That's a great start. Let's keep that up. That's all I'm saying. Please don't get too defensive. I already see one of his that Victor guy in the chat that is I can tell you're a Luka stan. I guarantee you have a Luka poster or a Luka jersey somewhere in your house, and that's fine. Be a fan, but also there's a entire league that extends beyond the Lakers, and there's some really good fucking basketball players in that league, and there's some really good teams in that league. And what it's going to take to beat some of those players and to beat some of those teams is for Luka to be a little bit better at some of the things that he doesn't particularly love doing. All right, let's go ahead and jump into back into the comment section here, and let's see. Yeah, Rosemary, we were talking about Utah, and they traded John Collins because he was helping them win too much. Yeah. Like, it's just like Utah, like they're just unabashedly tanking, and to the point where like a Colangelo might have to step in there. Let's see. We got the The Poster King. I read a report that LA has turned down deals and won't accept unless it's Joker or Greek. Is this true? And what's AR's value around the NBA? So I'm guessing you're asking if like what the Lakers have turned down for Austin, and they will only trade Austin if it's for Jokic or Giannis. Is that what your Poster King? If you're still here, drop another comment and I'll clear up that. For what it's worth, I haven't seen that report. I do think that the Lakers are like, because of the noise surrounding Giannis heading into the season, I do think the Lakers bar to trade a first round pick has gone up a little bit. That, it would take a little bit more for the Lakers to trade a first round pick this year because they see a path to potentially landing Giannis. Now, that said, it all comes down to Luka. And in this case, I swear I swear this isn't the Bash Luka episode. If Luka goes to the front office and says, "No, I'm in the best shape of my life. We have LeBron freaking James here. I feel like I can really help contend for a championship this season. I feel like this group is maybe a piece or two away from competing for a championship." Or if Bill Duffy walks in there and offers up that opinion on behalf of Luka, then the Lakers trade that first round pick. It's really as simple as that. And now to this point, LeBron has been a lot more passive aggressive than that. Luka has obviously made his preferences known in terms of like what he was hoping for from the Lakers in last free agency, and they were all good signings. Like I even with Jake LaRavia's recent struggles, I'm happy that he's on the Lakers. DeAndre Ayton, I think, was a really good addition. Though I do kind of think they need a better backup, and they might even need a better starter. But I've been happy for the most part with DeAndre Ayton. Marcus Smart has been a revelation in terms of the effort and give a bleep on this team. Really happy that they added him. Those were all maybe not including LaRavia. LaRavia was more of an Austin JJ move. But Luka has used his voice in the organization already, and if he walks into Rob Pelinka's office and says, "Hey, enough with this Giannis plan. If we get him, we get him, but I want to compete this year," then the Lakers trade the pick. That's really all it comes down to. Let's see. I'll answer one more since Little Man is still out. He was tired. That is crazy. Let's see. Yes, Victor, I watched that finals. I swear I did. Juan Velasquez. One thing I don't understand is all people talk about is how small and unathletic we look, yet we don't want to trade Reaves. He is unathletic and small. I don't understand. Well, if he's playing point guard, he's actually huge by point guard standards. So, and like, my thing is, I think there are ways to add athleticism that don't involve trading Austin. If you move the first round pick, that is enough. And that will be enough by the time we get to the trade deadline to add an athletic two-way wing. And I would much rather see this team with athleticism surrounding, like Derrick Jones Jr., right, is with the Clippers this season. If their season continues going the way that it is going and it becomes available, you could get Derrick Jones Jr. without trading without trading Austin Reaves. Derrick Jones Jr. looked really good made it, I believe, to a finals with Luka Doncic. And that's a guy that like you could probably go get for an expiring contract and a second round pick and maybe a second and a swap, and that guy immediately understands how to play with Luka and what exactly the Lakers need from him, right? And I would much rather do that than now. Look, if it's like like the I think poster put above, if the Lakers can trade Austin for Giannis, obviously, right? And we got to figure out where that bar resides. We got to see, obviously, the if the bar is somewhere here, Giannis and Jokic clear by quite a bit. But where does that bar go to? Where does that bar extend to? Before the season, I had people trying to convince me they should trade him for a backup center. I'm sorry. That would mean that the bar that should reside like right here somewhere is like down by my feet. And I'm not willing to trade Austin for the sake of fit or athleticism in a league that is filled with athleticism, like for that low value. So and especially, by the way, while he's on the contract that he's on right now, so if you play out this season and then you give him his new contract, and in the time that so the Lakers I would probably say, I think the way that it's probably going to play out this offseason is Austin and the Lakers, they sit down, they hash out the number, and the Lakers say to him, "Can we sit on this for a little bit because you have such a small cap hold, and then we'll use our bird rights to sign you to whatever the number is that we land on." And Austin, his agent and his camp, and the Lakers, they have a really good relationship. That's all I ever hear. And if it comes down to that, then that's how that will play out. And in that time between signing that new contract and mid-December, when Austin would be eligible to be traded again, in that time, if you've surrounded those guys with athleticism and it still isn't enough, then okay, you use Austin. I would guess that he's probably going to sign a 2-and-1 type deal where he has 2 years at like 35 mil each, and then a player option for the third year, somewhere between 35 and 40 million bucks. And some team is going to want him at that contract. I can guarantee you that. Memphis would love to get Austin right now. I bet they would trade John Morant for Austin right now. And they can't, and I don't think the Lakers would take that deal. But like that's where you're probably heading is you play out this season, you do what you can do to add some athleticism to this roster, and you do so by trying to keep this the rotation intact so that you're just adding to the rotation. And you use Dalton's he has another year on his contract for like $4 million next year. That's nothing. He's still a recent first round pick with a very reasonable contract. You use that. You use Gabe's expiring. He looked good, frankly, before he got hurt. Some team is going to need a point guard. Look at Houston, you look at Dallas, right? Like they'll probably be able to send Gabe to either one of those teams. Miami still likes Gabe. So there's going to be a market for Gabe Vincent this year. You have Maxi Kleber's expiring. That's just an expiring contract. He played last night. He looks cooked. And then you have, if you really desperately want to move him, you have Rui's expiring contract too. So there are things that the Lakers would be able to do to add athleticism to this roster that don't involve moving Austin Reaves right now. I'm not saying I am never going to be open to moving Austin Reaves. And look, like it might just be like I see the comment there at the very bottom there from Doggy, who says you overvalue Reaves. Maybe, but the dude dropped an almost 50-point triple-double earlier this year. Might be you undervalue Austin Reaves, right? The guy has all he's ever done is improve every single year he's been in the league. He's been good as a primary creator. He's been good as a secondary creator. He's been good as a tertiary creator. And yeah, he had a bad playoff series last year. I'm not going to make my final decision and trade this dude to a spot where he'll probably thrive as a team's primary creator. I'm not going to trade him for the sake of that one bad playoff series and just to bring in a little bit more athleticism. That's not smart roster or asset management. See what you can do elsewhere on your roster. And if you can supplement Luka and Austin's weaknesses with other players' strengths, and you go from there. I that's how I would do it. Maybe you guys disagree. That's fine. Like that's the whole point here is for me to disagree with a comment section. But that, by the way, what I'm talking about, that's how the Lakers see it too. So I don't really know what to tell you. All right, that is going to do it here for this episode of the Lakers Lounge podcast. This was a fun one. I love these Q&A. Should I do more of these Q&As? I think I can. I know Jovan basically does one at the end of all of his episodes. I wouldn't mind getting to that point here with you guys too. So over the course of all of these recordings or streams or whatever, hit me with questions and I'll answer as many of them at the end of it if we have time as I can. So hit that subscribe button, hit that like button. Those things really help the show. And until the next time you guys hear from me, I'm Anthony Irwin. Have a great rest of your day. Make somebody else's. I'll talk to you guys tomorrow with Pete. Oh gosh, no, don't do that. Ooh, wrong button. Way wrong button. Bye.